This is the Level Up Podcast. I'm Taylor Petrinovich.
And I'm Kelly Gilster of 618 Studios.
And we are on a mission to help wedding filmmakers and photographers level up their businesses so you can make more and work less.
We want to help you confidently take your business from mainstream to luxury, and it all starts right here.
Hey friends, and welcome to another episode of the Level Up Podcast. I'm your host, Taylor Petrinovich, and today I am joined by our special guest, Magi Fisher. How are you, Maggie?
Hi, I'm good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm great. I feel like this has been a long time coming. I've had you speak inside other educational membership things that I've had in the past, but we haven't had a chance to chat on the podcast yet.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited too. Okay, so I would love for you at first to just introduce yourself in case the listeners are not aware of who you are quite yet. Give a little background of how you got into the wedding industry, what you do, all those good things.
Yeah, amazing. So I am both a photographer and a lawyer. I have been in the industry for about 10 years now. When I originally started photographing weddings, my original brand was Magdalena Studios. And I started that when I was in college and then transitioning into law school. And so it happened very naturally. I was working in the surf industry and I started an associate team because I was in law school, and it was just this, all of these things were happening at once. And now Magdalena Studios, my original brand, is primarily our associate team. So my husband and I pulled ourselves out of that and started our own luxury photography business, just because we were speaking to a bit of a different audience and clientele and photographing in more international locations. And I built all of that while I was in law school and clerking at the appellate division and working for a law firm. And so I ended up leaving my full-time legal career. I had thought that was my path in life growing up, and realized, I'm very glad that I'm at a law firm now. But I started the artist lawyer, which just now looking back, it just feels like it was always meant to be. It feels like, I was always looking for something in law school that I didn't feel like I had access to as a photographer and as a creative. And so I now run both businesses simultaneously. I am licensed in the state of New Jersey, and I specialize in trademark law. I work with a lot of businesses in the wedding industry and just in the arts industry as a whole on copyright, trademark, contracts, and general consulting. So yeah, doing both. I think we had 12 weddings this year. Our team had about 85 that we managed and oversaw. We sell our contract templates, and then I have a handful of legal clients that are the top of the top in the industry. I get to do some fun NDA celebrity negotiations on contracts, and just it's really fun to do both.
Oh my gosh, I'm overwhelmed just listening to you. It's incredible. So, I mean, I feel like I can relate to you in so many ways. I'm more of a multi-passionate entrepreneur myself, kind of, wearing multiple hats, serving multiple different kinds of customers or clients. And so I can't even imagine throwing in the legal stuff and how on it you really have to be. And yeah, the artist lawyer does feel like a very natural progression.
Mm-hmm. It was, yeah.
Amazing. I use your contracts for sure. I've downloaded or purchased multiple of them, and I always recommend them to our students. You guys should go check them out if you're in need of a little bit of a contract upgrade. I feel like that's definitely one of those things where, I mean, if you're an artist first and a business owner second, that kind of thing probably doesn't come quite as second nature.
Totally.
For people.
Definitely.
Yeah. So would you say you're more of a business owner first and an artist second, or the reverse?
I think, yeah, I mean, it ebbs and flows. I think I'm pretty evenly split, left brain, right brain. But I think my legal background and, having multiple businesses, I definitely lean more right brain than a lot of I feel like even in the wedding industry, you can think of those like artists that are just pure artists and don't, it's really easy to just pursue your art and your creativity and kind of like forget like that business side of things. But I was talking to an artist in the wedding industry who's like super well regarded, an incredible artist. And I feel like even if you are very left brain, at some point you get pushed into having to like be serious about your contracts and like the business side of things. Even if you are like a super, super creative and artistic person, it's like the inevitable beast that you have to confront.
Yeah, I feel like for some people, unfortunately, the reality sets in once you've been burned once
Exactly.
or you've had a misstep.
Yes.
Do you hear those kinds of stories from people?
Oh yeah, all the time. I see it all. I'm usually, I feel like I get those calls or texts on a regular basis, weekly, if not daily. Um, yeah, from like all different types of vendors in the industry and it's inevitable that you have to like take your business seriously and treat it like a business. And it's just kind of like at what point I think people kind of like have different points that they do take it very seriously or not, and at some point like it's inevitable you have to confront those things. Like nobody likes going to the dentist, nobody likes looking at their contracts, but it's one of those things that like you really just you got to do it.
Yeah. My husband and I refer to those things as like the human tax. It's just part of being human. You have to do it.
Yeah. It's like
Yeah.
it's not fun. Like reading contracts is like for me it's fun, but like for most people it's not fun.
Well, that's just your superpower, and you've learned to leverage that, which I love. Okay, so let's maybe frame this conversation because I think so many of our listeners are generally wedding photographers and wedding filmmakers, and we have a few maybe like makeup artists, planners, that kind of thing. So many of them are doing weddings full time. That is their primary source of income. That's their primary thing that they're offering to the world. But so many of them have that spark of wanting to dabble, wanting to expand, wanting to maybe create another revenue stream. When did you know like you were ready to so we started with Magdalena Studios. How did you know you were ready to kind of dive into Magi Fisher and then the next step with Artist Lawyer?
To be honest, it was a very natural progression for me, and I have a lot of people who come to me for coaching on building an associate program because we have such a large one. And um for me, like I think that sometimes like these things can be a little forced because you're like, oh, I gotta diversify or I have to do this other thing. And like sometimes the answer's right there, like you're already doing it or you're forced and pushed to like that next step. And for me, I was in law school and I knew I could only take so many weddings while going through law school. And I had other like the requests and like the demand there. And so it was very like a natural progression for me to have a very trusted second shooter who I consistently worked with and to transition them to an associate shooter. And there were some like just naturally fitting weddings that worked on. And from there it was a slow build. Now we have like 12 people on our team and like 7 or 8 leads who are consistently shooting for us. And I think just finding those key people, like it was a very natural thing and it continues like it I think it's really important to like listen to what the needs are and like ebb and flow with it as well. Like I'm not like people come and go and like where our business is with the associate team comes and goes. Like we are very like boutique for our local market and I am always checking in with our team to see like where do they want to be shooting? Like what venues do they want to be traveling and how many do they want and like what is working for them, and we're kind of catering to like what we have there is like supply and demand. I don't know. I think that's like a hard answer to that, but
No, that makes so much sense. So it wasn't like one day you're like, I'm going to start an associate brand. And then you went out and like hired a bunch of people. Like it was a slow build based off of like trusted individuals that you brought in over time. And I think that's a good distinction to make, because I think some people imagine it happening one way and they think it's like an instant, like snap of the finger thing. But hearing that it's like a slow progression basically over time, I think lays a more realistic expectation for people.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I like listening to, I think it's really easy to look around and like see what other people are doing and be like, oh, I have to have an associate team that looks like that person. And there's so many different ways to have an associate program, and there's so many different ways to make passive income or to like even just have like another offset of offerings. And I think like listening to like what people are coming to you for, like if within the industry, if you're constantly getting questions about like editing, like maybe there's a need there for something specific, like editing in your style, whether it's like a preset or like a educational course or mentoring, or maybe like I think listening to what you're being like, I don't know, like kind of like asked, and what that like demand is, to explore that other like area is really helpful.
Oh, I 100% agree. The market will tell you generally. Kind of like you said, the volume was there with your associate, like you were just getting a tons of inquiries. Like you didn't force it, you were naturally being inquired with at a volume that you couldn't serve. And so you found a solution. I think that so many of us have something that we are just really great at, or that's maybe we're right place, right time kind of thing we're lucky with. And you can, if you're open-minded enough, you can ask friends like what they perceive of you. You can kind of grab that and run. And I think that creating like a separate revenue stream like that is so smart. For me personally, I don't know if you can relate, but so I do my wedding films, Taylor Petrinovich, and then we have Level Up. And for me personally, the way my brain works, I can't just have like one thing. I feel like I would get really, really bored and grow unsettled, I think. And so for me personally, like having Level Up and being able to like split my attention in multiple ways keeps me invigorated and feeling fresh and excited about things. Do you feel the same way?
100%. Totally. I completely
Yeah.
agree. I did a speaking topic at Hybrid last year, and I spoke about this. The topic was on being a multi-hyphenate and pursuing multiple things. And I got off this stage, and a fellow photographer who was also speaking was like, "So when did you get diagnosed with ADHD?"
So I'm self-diagnosed ADHD for
I'm like,
sure.
I never thought about that. Maybe I do have it.
TikTok told me so.
Yeah, I think I TikTok tells us we're all, we all have it. But yeah, that's maybe, I don't know. Maybe I should look into that.
Maybe. I think so many of us like have it. And the way the wedding industry works with it being like huge delays. Like the booking window is like such a long
Totally.
like process. I feel like there's none of that like instant gratification that you can get from like other ventures, and I feel like that kind of fills that void.
Totally. Totally. And like we have all this, I think we have so much extra time, like especially in the off season and like during the weekdays. I need my plate to be full to be able to like, I don't know. It helps drive me.
I'm exactly the same. Yeah. It's so funny because I feel like people fall into like one of two camps. They're either like us and just like needing to be busy and the newness and the novelty, or there's people who are like, I would way rather just go watch Netflix or like have lunch with a friend. And it's kind of nice to be able to like identify where you lie so you can just embrace it. I don't know. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be busy. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, so kind of shifting because the whole artist lawyer intrigues me so much. So it's obviously like part, well, I guess you have Easton Bay Law Company, is that correct? Right? And then you have the artist lawyer, which is just digital products. So like the whole digital product market to me, I feel like is so cool because you can really like duplicate and replicate and scale in ways that like physical products, there's a lot of complexities at stake, like with the shipping and the handling and the packaging and all that stuff. So tell me a little bit about like the inner workings of the artist lawyer, if you don't mind. Like I would just like love to know.
Yeah. Yeah. So I developed a bunch of templates and primarily like after, like during and after COVID, when I realized I had so many friends coming to me and asking me to look at their contracts. And I had realized they had purchased them online from other attorneys in the online sphere. And there were misspellings, typos, holes in their contracts. And I was like, wow, I just felt I could do it better and have it be more organized and more specific. And so all of the contract templates, to me they read for someone who's been in business, somebody who is not in their first like 1 to 2 years. They have been around the block. They're ready to take their business seriously. They are an artist or creative, and I want them to read like guides or manuals to the relationship. Super easy to digest, but putting it all out on the table for both the client and the business owner. And so I've developed all these and like more over time. Like I get requests all the time for like right now, content creators on wedding days is like a huge thing. So like we'll add, we're adding some things for content creators, or like I've worked with, graphic designers, interior designers, to develop these super niche contract templates, and then we can put them up on the artist lawyer. And so it's super, super simple. You purchase them and then you get the link right to your inbox. So it comes in like a PDF with the link to a Google Doc. And the PDF just has like some information about how it works, how to use it. And then the reason we do a Google Doc link is that so it can always be up to date. So if something if there's a change like in the law, or even if like there's something that like if I'm helping a client with something, and I think about that, it should be important to include in like a template. Or like I've recently had a request for a freelancer agreement and, this super niche clause to be added in. And I was like, let me just add that in there because somebody can remove that if it's not applicable to them. So the reason, long story short, that it's on a Google Doc link is that so all those updates are just like there and accessible. You always have access to that same Google Doc link. You can save it as a shortcut on your drive. And then like compare contrast easily with like the Google Doc tool to see what updates are made. And yeah, that's about it. It's super simple. Where I was talking to you earlier before we started that I'm starting to wrap my head around adding some courses in the mix. But it's pretty like straightforward.
Yeah, I love it. Do you use like Shopify for Artist Lawyer? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, amazing. Yeah, I feel like there's so many little nuances and stuff. And a few weeks ago, we announced that we're coming out with a course for people who want to diversify their income, whether that be through corporate work or digital products like the Artist Lawyer and all these things. And like in that course, we go through all of like how to build the business. So like how to do Shopify walkthroughs, how to market it, like all these things. So if like you're listening to this, guys, and you're resonating with like, ooh, I could maybe leverage this skill or this thing that I have, like keep an eye out for that. It's going to launch officially in January, which we're so excited about. Because there's so many little nuances and so many little things that are different from being a photographer or being a videographer, that we don't have to grapple with.
Yeah.
So I'm a big numbers person. I love spreadsheets, probably the same way you like contracts. I love a spreadsheet. And so we are honestly on a mission to increase like transparency in the industry. I think that it's really great to have an understanding of the financial side of things. So you have like all these different businesses, all these things under your umbrella. What percentage of your revenue does each little arm make up?
Yeah. Yeah, so the photography is our main bread and butter. I would say that's like 60 to 70, probably 70%, 60 to 70% of
Magdalena
our revenue.
combined with Maggie?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
we keep like the accounting for all of the photography things together. Um so and then like between the two of those it's probably split like pretty 50-50. So the revenue is great that comes in from our associate program, but the expenses are so high. Like we pay out so much in expenses. My husband does payroll and he wanted to throw up last night because of how much I think he paid out like 31,000 for last week in payroll because we have and that might have been the last 2 weeks, but we have 5 to 6 associate weddings a weekend right now in the fall. Um, so it's like I would say, 50% profit margins, maybe a little bit less with our associate team. Yeah. Yeah, it's just very, very expense heavy. And so something to think about, like we're always trying to get that profit margin higher. Our accountant always says to us, like, we're always doing more each year in revenue, but our expenses continue to go up like at the same rate, because if you're taking more weddings, like you're also paying more out. So it's like, at what point, I don't know, just like something to think about with scaling. Um, and then our weddings are probably like our most, like that's where the most profit margin is. And I think you're just, if you're doing it right, like you're able to do so well in the wedding industry. I think like profit, like other than associate weddings, like for us, like there's not a ton of expenses. Of course, there's travel, and we have an in-house editor, and we have expenses for sure, but there's just I think it's a lot easier to make money as in the events industry. Um, if we like the templates, like it's nice, that's kind of just like bonus money that I think of. And when I do legal work, it's hourly. And I think charging hourly, like if you've ever done coaching or like one-on-one services, like that's really hard to do. So selling like a package for a wedding, like that's like where I feel like for us at least, like our main bread and butter is. And I haven't quite figured out like with legal services, there's probably a better way to do it where I'm doing like a monthly retainer or something like that. So still figuring that all of that stuff out. Lots of very transparent there.
Well, it's a journey. I think that's like what makes it fun. Like I say a lot, like I look at business as like a game of chess, and it's a long game. It takes a lot of strategy, and yeah.
Honestly, like for me, the artist lawyer and like that side of things truly is a passion project. And I find myself often like going out of my way if somebody asks for help with something, like that really is and has been a passion project for the last few years. And more of like a side project for me. And at some point, like maybe that will shift. And I will re-strategize, how to like up that side of things a bit more. But yeah, that's kind of like where it's at now.
Yeah, that's amazing. And if you don't mind, you can decline to answer if you want. But what's like your starting or average for your primary photography brand? Where is that falling?
Yeah. So most of our weddings for next year are like averaging 25. Like we're booking like between 22 and 30. And like moving forward, like I just had a email drafted to a planner that had just asked for, like, I don't have set pricing. I just custom quote everything since everything's so different, and no engagement, travel, rehearsal dinner, welcome party, day after cover, all of that. So like moving forward, we're pretty much 25 to 35. Like I don't think we're going to take anything. Of course, if there's something really like amazing, we'll make an exception. But for the most part, like 25 to 35, like moving forward.
That's amazing. Yeah, I love that. I think it gives people so much like hope and so much to strive for just hearing this, because I don't know about you, but the first few years of my business, I mean, when I started charging, I don't know, whatever, like 5, 6, 7,000, like I kind of thought I was at the top. Like I didn't realize.
Totally.
So
Yeah.
hearing
And
like
then,
normal people like charging
yeah.
amazing prices. Yeah.
Yeah. And then like I was the same way. I was like, oh my God, $4,000, $5,000. No way I could ever charge $12,000. And then you charge 12,000, and like, and even now, like I'm like, oh well, I just lost that wedding to someone who charged 55,000 or 60,000, which is crazy. But like, are they doing anything that different? I don't know,
I feel like you're paying for the name brand a little bit.
100%. I agree. I
Yeah.
had this
Yeah.
conversation with a planner actually this last week, and it really is. It's a name association at a certain point.
Yeah. And some clients really value that. And I mean, I think there's still like high wealth clients who like do not care at all too. So it's kind of like interesting to see like people's dynamics. And it's the same as like kind of at lower levels. Like you get, the everyday person who almost acts like an influencer and they like want to overshare, but then people who are very private, like I feel like
Yeah.
your wealth doesn't dictate like your personality in that way.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, so kind of bringing it back to the legal thing, because I think you're the first lawyer we've had on the podcast, which is exciting. What are some things that you see wedding industry creatives maybe not understanding that they should put a little bit more effort or stock into things, or maybe they just don't have the awareness that something exists that they should be doing?
Yeah, the biggest thing that comes to mind is trademarks. I think it's so overlooked by all business owners in general. And so when you're starting a new business, I think, of course, like maybe it's on everyone's radar to at some point consider a trademark and like whether their business is worth trademarking, which if you have a unique business name, it probably is. But before you even get to that stage, what we often do prior to the trademark process is a search and clearance, which would give us a big picture overview of like what else is out there. We have software that runs on information based on like all LLC registrations in all 50 states and like different iterations of trademarks that are out there that are actually registered. And so you could potentially, long story short, be infringing on a trademark by starting a new business and not realize that you are investing all of these resources into this new business and somebody has a similar brand or business name already out there that's a registered trademark, or they're in the process of trademarking it. And sometimes it's beyond what the human brain can even think to search. So like even if you typed it in on Google or even went to like the next step of typing it in on the USPTO, there might be like a different iteration of something like linguistically that would be potentially confusing and could infringe on somebody's mark. And so I think if you are really moving forward in like establishing a business and you're investing 5, 10, thousands of dollars into a brand for branding, website, domain name, Instagram, like you're, especially like what we just talked about where you're ready to kick off this other business and you come up with a name for it and like you're hiring all these people and getting the ball rolling. I think it's really important to just stop and before you make that investment into that brand name, to hire an attorney to do a search and clearance for you before you make that large investment and make sure that it's clear for you to pursue that brand name before you make that investment. And then also consider trademarking it at that same time, because I think that oftentimes people come to me when it's too late, when they realize somebody else has started the same business, and a trademark is not retroactive, it's only proactive. So even if you pursue a trademark, anything that's been established up until that point can continue to exist. So if you come up with a really unique business or brand
Wait,
name.
hold on. I want to like clarify. So I've had this business for 10 years and it's named Tailor-Made Videos, whatever. That's generic enough, right? And then another Tailor-Made Videos popped up 5 years into my business. I trademark, they're still good to go because they've already been established for 5 years. That's how that works?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It just
Yeah.
prevents the new ones from cropping up.
Right. So if you had trademarked.
I clearly don't have that much knowledge.
No, it's okay. I mean, most people don't. But like, say you had trademarked Tailor-Made Videos from the get-go, and then Tailor-Made Videos popped up. You could say, hey, just so you know, this is my trademark. You're going to have to change your business name. You could have their domain name removed. You could have their social media name like removed if they weren't complying with like your request or demand. And so it's a really powerful tool, especially with social media and everything. Like there could be other social media handles that get created that are confusing. So I see it all the time. Someone else is getting tagged because one person is Tailor-Made Co. and the other person's Tailor-Made Films. And then they're getting crisscross inquiries, crisscross tags on social media. And it happens all the time, even with people with like individual names. So like I've trademarked Maggie Fisher. I've trademarked Magdalena Studios, the artist lawyer. So you can trademark a name. There's more complexities to it and different levels, but I think it's something that people usually circle onto like when it's too late. So I always like to bring that up.
Yeah, that's so fascinating and kind of scary, honestly. Yeah, that's
Anxiety
really scary.
inducing.
It is. Okay. And then is this true? So, like, the name is its own trademark, and then, like, logo, submarks, is that like a separate
Yeah,
trademark?
correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can trademark like your name, logo, sub logo,
What
a
about phrases?
phrase,
Like,
a phrase.
okay, yeah.
Yeah, so a trademark has to be like a strong brand identifier, and you can trademark something visually, so the way that it looks. Like if you had like a wave over your name over a certain font, like you're trademarking aesthetically how that visually appears. So like that font, that wave, in that color scheme under a certain class or category. Or you can trademark the actual word or words of the brand name or the slogan. But again, it has to be a really strong brand identifier. So it's going to have to be something like that if it's a phrase, it's not something you use like once on an Instagram post. It's like that is on your website. That is something that's on your packaging. Like that is your brand. That's a brand identifier. Like just do it for Nike. Like when you think of just do it, you think of Nike. The Nike swoosh, you think of Nike. Nike itself, like those are three different types of trademarks that Nike all has.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. So, trademark, add to to do list for 2025.
Yes. Reach out. I
What
got
else?
you. um, I think, spending time on your legal documents every year, I think it's really easy to overlook that and just be like, I did it. I purchased this template or, this came in HoneyBook for me. Oftentimes like that stuff's not just going to do it. I think going to an attorney, having a relationship with an attorney, just like how you have a relationship with an accountant, is important. And to keep like a doc or like a note on your phone of things that are coming up for you with clients, like either nightmare scenarios that you're like up at night, like, oh my God, this almost happened. Like this could have happened. I just had a planner who the church actually like denied them from coming in to the church and told them they had to leave. And like they were obviously hired to provide wedding planning services and be there all day for their client. And so like there's things that come up, like even 10 years into business or 15 years into business that you might not have thought of, that might like you might just be curious, like, what does my contract say about this? What if the client was pissed that you weren't there? So there's all these like different things that can come up over the years, and you're gonna have to keep like revisiting your contract and making sure it's up to date and like reads how you would
So,
want it to.
yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I feel like one thing that becomes more frequent the higher you scale into the wedding industry is you get more contract negotiations or requests for revisions or however it may appear. So, like, for example, a lot of my clients want to pre approve imagery before it's posted anywhere online. Like, that's coming up often for me. So, let's just say there's something that's happening like that a lot with somebody who's listening. What would you say is like the amount of wiggle room legally they have where they could just go in and make those adjustments themselves and it would like still like hold up, or does it have to be like in the legalese, like that
Yeah.
is not our second language?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think each situation, like you're gonna have an idea of you know, if it's something that you can handle. We sell like modification language for templates so that you can easily swap out like a copyright buyout or, no like release of like the footage and the imagery. So there's always going to be like, different scenarios at hand depending on, what the circumstances actually are. And I think if there's a lot more at stake, like that's kind of where I find that people will bring me in to help negotiate that. So if like you really want to show this wedding and they're asking for a copyright buyout, like sometimes I find that it's really important to get to like the heart of what the client wants. Like what is it exactly that they're looking for? Is it certain photos not be released? Is there like a high profile guest that's going to be there? Is it something with the venue and like the property or like, privacy over the location? Do they just want to make sure that they look good in all the photos that you post? Because like that's totally different. And I'll structure the contract language very specifically based on that information. So like we might be able to have detail photos, location photos, non-identifying like photos of guests able to be showed and approved right away for the planner and like other vendors. While, if it's something like very specific, like they can have approval over photos of identifying individuals or, there's all different ways that you can structure that. And I think it gives the creative like more latitude. Like it's obviously so important for us to be able to show our work. And I think it can be like a little bit more nuanced than just like, yeah, sure, we won't show you the photos. I think you can really kind of like figure out like, well, why, like, what does the client want? And meeting, like structuring things that way. And so that's usually when I'll come in if there's a lot at stake with these bigger with these weddings that are like multi-million and you like only take 5 weddings a year and you really want to be able to show something from it. Or, if there's a deal with like a publication and I don't know, there's all different ways that you can structure things. So I think if that comes up, like don't be afraid to reach out to someone and ask for support instead of just giving like a blanket, like, sure, yeah, you can, we'll change this for you. And I think it's appropriate to charge too, depending on your business model. And like I've had various conversations about this. If you're always servicing like NDA clients and that's kind of like your brand, then maybe you don't charge. But if you expect to be able to show your work and your portfolio consistently, then I do see people charge for of course for a copyright buyout, but also for not being able to share like any media from the wedding.
Is that usually like a percentage based off of like the entire contracted
Yeah,
price?
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it can
What
be anywhere like 20 to for a copyright buyout, like 30 to 50% usually, and then depending on like how that language is structured, it might be anywhere from like 15 to like 35%.
for an NDA?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I have done many I would say like maybe over the last like 2 years, like
Yeah.
30% of my weddings have been NDAs and I've
Wow.
never charged. But maybe
Yeah.
I'm like, maybe I should.
Well,
Maybe not. I don't know.
yeah. And
I
like,
don't
I
mind.
think, it exactly. Like, if you don't mind, if it doesn't affect your work, if you're still getting work, I think for certain people, if you're not able to show anything, it's like, well, how did that client find you from the work that they saw? Um, but then like, I know there are planners who you'll never see their work. They don't have an Instagram profile. There's not a single photo on their website and they only work with NDA clients and their name is circulated because they keep everything so like they don't post anything. So they're just known like in that world for providing a good service and being discreet. So I think if that's kind of built into your business model, then that's something you don't charge for.
Yeah. Yeah, it is interesting. I feel like those are like the sleepers. Like, who is this? Like, I've never even heard of them. And it's like, well, because they're running in those circles. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So
It's
interesting.
really cool. It is interesting.
Yeah.
Well, this has been amazing. I would love to maybe give you just a quick little like moment to say anything you think the listeners would take advantage of from hearing, like anything related to legal or spreading their wings as a multi-passionate entrepreneur or photography or anything, just whatever you think they would benefit from.
Yeah. I need a second to think about that one.
My favorite thing is putting people on the spot.
Yeah. Okay, let me think. Yeah, I would say don't be afraid to, explore other passions and don't be afraid to reach out to people. Like sometimes, I don't know how they find me. I'll have people who are in law school who are also interested in photography email me and ask me like, they'll just have read something on my blog and be curious about how I left the legal field or how I started the artist lawyer. And I think that there's so many interesting people out there who have carved out ways to make money and provide for themselves and their family by doing things that they love. And I think you also have to be careful making what you love your passion and making sure that that's really like the thing that you want to go down and monetize, because it can sometimes suck like the life out of it a little bit. But I think there's so many people out there who are super happy and open to like being a resource, and don't hesitate to like reach out to people and make connections and ask them questions about like how they started their business, or what their experience was. I think you can learn so much from other people, and yeah, and I think it's even just like thinking outside the box. Like, of course, I feel like in the wedding industry, there's so many people who are like, I want to connect with this planner, or I want to connect with this person to get from point A to point B. But I think, forming connections with like another photographer or videographer in your local community that's doing something cool, and seeing like maybe something that they added a la carte. Like, sorry, this is going on a long rant at this point, but we had a photo booth company as part of our like a subset of one of our brands. It was like our fifth brand, that rad booth, and it served us super well for like 4 years. It was a great a la carte add-on. We made pretty passive money by having this a la carte add-on on our proposals, and we had photo booth attendance. And we realized that that's not the direction that we're going now. Like, our studio and our associate photography company and team, like, they're really niching down and super boutique for our local market, and the photo booth stuff was kind of weighing us down. And we ended up just selling it this past week to other photographers who are local, who work together, and I think it's perfect for them. Like, this is something that they can now sell and add on to their proposals, and have as like another offset of their business. And I didn't know them. I hadn't connected with them before. Now I'm like coaching them through that process. And, it was super cool to like sell our first business, which is something I don't know, I never like imagined doing. But yeah, even just like forming those connections with people locally, like you never know like where like a relationship is going to take you. So super long-winded, but that my suggestion would be reaching out and connections with unexpected people.
I love that. That's amazing. Great words of wisdom. And as an introvert, I feel like those are like words that I need to hear like from
Yeah.
people more. So I'm
Yeah.
sure people can definitely relate.
I love that you're an introvert, but like you were so fun at Engage.
Thanks. I can turn it on when I need to.
Yeah, you turn it on.
It was fun. Are you going to any engages coming up?
I'm signed up for Santa Barbara.
Me too.
And oh, yay. Okay, good. Awesome.
Yay.
Yeah.
Little reunion.
Okay, that'll be fun. Yeah, and I didn't sign up for any others. Just gonna like wait and feel. I might be speaking at the one in December, but it's like TBD. So hopefully, I have a topic out there with them that we're just trying to see like where it fits. So
it's very exciting.
Be fun. Yeah, it'd be fun.
Oh, I wish I could go just to watch you.
Oh, thanks.
It'll be so fun. Oh,
thank you.
Okay, well, so this is so great. I feel like this is an amazing conversation. Really quick before we wrap up, so we don't forget, where can people find you online to follow along, connect with you, all the good things?
Yeah. So I'm Magi Fisher. It's MagiFisher. I feel like people always want to put an IE or a C in the Fisher. So no IE, no C. And, which I realized rhymes. So yeah, you can always message me on Instagram. I'm super open. You can always send me an email. And then the Artist Lawyer is the template shop that we were talking about. And I know that you have a code for your listeners, so you can share that with them. But even if you have questions like about, do you really need this, or how's it different than what you're currently working with, or, what's like the best fit for you, you can always reach out, and always happy to help.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Maggie.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. This was super fun.
Thank you for joining us in today's conversation. Please help us reach more filmmakers and photographers like you by taking a screenshot and sharing it to social media. And don't forget to tag us at The Level Up Co.
And join us again next week, same time, same place, as we continue to level up the industry together.